Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. He has been leading Russia since 1999. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the country experienced a significant economic downturn. However, since 2000, under Putin's leadership, Russia began to recover, achieved rapid growth rates, strengthened its central authority, and initiated various modernization programs within the Russian armed forces. But Putin was nothing like an ordinary head of state. He was a KGB agent, and being a KGB agent meant leaving compassion behind. You are always on high alert and ready to do whatever it takes for Russia's interests. In a moment, I will prove everything I've just mentioned, and much more, with evidence. On a fall day, October 7th, 1952, in Leningrad, part of the Soviet Union, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was born. His father was a disabled factory worker whose legs were injured in an unfortunate event during World War II. Putin's mother, who had lost a child to diphtheria and nearly starved to death during World War II, worked cleaning streets and laboratory equipment for a meager wage. In short, Putin was born into a very poor family. The memory of his mother nearly dying of hunger during the war was one of the indelible scars of his childhood. Due to the communist policies of the Soviet Union, which promoted shared housing, Putin and his family lived in a small room without a toilet, hot water, or a bathroom. Vladimir and his friends used to chase rats that had made their homes in the building's stairwells for fun. Once, after cornering a rat with no escape route, it attacked him. Putin would later recount this moment as a significant lesson in his life. However, he seemed to have learned the wrong lesson from the rat's desperate fight to survive. After all, some behaviors are ingrained in childhood. In his early education, he was not a hard-working student and saw mischief as something praiseworthy. But with the help of a teacher in 6th grade, he earned a scholarship, and his grades began to improve. This was because he had found a dream. Putin had a warrior spirit. As he matured, he graduated from law school in 1975. Then, he achieved his dream job, joining the KGB, the Soviet Union's secret intelligence service. Putin had been determined to join the KGB since 9th grade, studying law specifically to fulfill this goal, and he succeeded. Now part of the KGB, he improved his German and advanced to a black belt in judo. In 1985, he was sent to Germany on a secret mission. During this time, the Berlin Wall was still standing. Putin was quite fond of East Germany. But 4 years later, in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, and the German people were determined to take revenge on the Russians, whom they blamed for their suffering. Putin witnessed this firsthand and sought help from Moscow, only to be told to handle it himself. This experience shattered his trust in the state, and he made a decision at that moment. One day, he would lead this state. By the end of 1991, republics like Ukraine began declaring independence, one by one, breaking free from the weakened Soviet rule. The Soviet Union was dissolved into 15 independent countries, leaving behind a fragile Russia. In Putin's eyes, this meant Russia had lost 2 million square kilometers of territory. It was a deep wound for him, causing millions of Russian citizens to migrate to other countries. Russia's economy was in shambles, and its first president, Boris Yeltsin, was seen as a clown by the Russian public, due to his tragic cooperation with the West and his notorious alcoholism. For most Russians, Yeltsin was a source of national embarrassment. Meanwhile, Putin was making calculated moves. After serving in the KGB for 16 years, he left the organization in 1991 with a clear determination. Between 1991 and 1992, he served as the deputy mayor of St. Petersburg, using his political influence to assist oligarchs. He gained their favor and quickly earned the support of oligarchs, mafia bosses, businessmen, and many others, propelling him further up the ranks. Post-Soviet Chechnya had seen rising violence since the 1990s. Chechen forces launched attacks on Russia's borders and even deeper within its territory. In September 1999, multiple bombings targeted apartment buildings in Moscow and other cities, killing over 300 people. Boris Yeltsin was blamed for failing to protect his people, while Putin publicly vowed to avenge these attacks at every opportunity. His strong stance and determination caused his approval rating to jump from 2% to 45%, following the bombings. On December 31st, 1999, Boris Yeltsin resigned, or rather, was forced to resign, and announced Vladimir Putin as the acting president. Putin now had one main goal: to build a strong Russian state. However, years later, allegations surfaced that these bombings had been orchestrated by the Kremlin with Putin's involvement, a calculated plan to discredit Yeltsin. Government officials denied these theories, of course. Following the bombings, Russia and Chechnya entered a devastating war, which reportedly claimed 80,000 lives. Within a year, Russia had taken control of Chechnya. During the war, Putin won the presidential election with an impressive 44.98% of the vote. One of his first actions as president was to suppress the oligarchs, rewarding those who supported him and punishing those who opposed him.
Почему здесь-то забегали все как тараканы перед самым моим приездом? Если собственники договориться между собой не смогут, то единый комплекс все равно будет восстановлен. В том или в другом виде, то это будет сделано без вас.
Another major focus of Putin was gaining control over the media. He recognized that one of the reasons for the Soviet Union's collapse was the widespread accessibility of the internet and information. Aware of this, Putin eventually took control of most of the media, with many news outlets turning into propaganda machines. Despite owning a computer, Putin avoids using the internet, doesn't own a cell phone, and has no social media accounts. These deliberate actions kept Putin's popularity intact over the years. However, some of his habits couldn't be hidden. His right hand hardly moved, a behavior ingrained from his KGB years, where he had learned to always keep his hand close to a weapon. This habit became second nature to him. By 2000, Putin wanted to bring separatist movements in Russia under control. To manage Russia's nearly 100 regions more effectively, he divided the country into 7 administrative districts, appointing officials of his own choosing to govern them. Putin's aim was to restore Russia's strength to something resembling the former Soviet Union. As a symbolic start, he reinstated the Soviet anthem. Vladimir Putin began to be seen as the leader who transformed Soviet Russia into a modern federation. In 2008, Russia invaded Georgia, a former Soviet republic, provoking international backlash. This was a clear show of strength, a warning to other post-Soviet states. By 2012, Putin won re-election with a significant majority. Pursuing an aggressive foreign policy, he sent weapons and warplanes to support Assad in 2015. Putin was openly hostile to countries that joined NATO and positioned themselves against Russia. His discontent with Ukraine's stance had been evident since 2014. By 2022, Ukraine's President Zelensky took a step that enraged Putin, despite knowing the potential consequences. Putin could not remain indifferent to this, though Zelensky's true intentions were entirely different.